from the boisterous energy of Lagos, thereby creating a sharp contrast to the well-known face of Lagos. Situated along the Lekki-Ekpe Expressway, the 78-hectare facility serves as a tourist destination where visitors can delight in the quietness of nature. It has remained one of the tourist sites with the highest turnover in the country, having received over 2 million tourists from about 100 nations of the world in its 25 years of existence.
Lagos is an industrial city. We have a lot of buildings, we have a lot of estates that are springing up around this area. So for us to still have something like this that is over 78 hectares of forest reserve is not something small. It's something that is commendable. It's something that we want to push to the Nigerian population, for them to come and see what we have on ground here. Because many of our children, even many of the younger generation, they've not had access to a forest reserve, a forest environment. They've not had access to they are in their various homes, concrete. Many homes don't even have gardens. Many homes don't have flowers or whatever.
To the founding fathers, the main reason behind its establishment is environmental sustainability, since they recognize the fact that nature doesn't really need people, but rather it is the people who need nature for its continued existence and survival. The ability to preserve such a natural haven, as well as to continually improve on its facilities, necessitated our throwing our searchlight on the place on this episode of the program. The center welcomes guests through a boulevard of coconut trees that leads to the first section of the conservation, which includes a cone-topped reception hall that exhibits rare pictures of endangered plants and animals arranged in glass stands around the oval hall. Since the entire landscape is all about conservation of the gift of nature, great efforts are being made to ensure that the place is not only properly maintained, but it also serves as a repository of knowledge about the various animals and plants available in the place. To this end, various avenues for public enlightenment are integrated into the operation of the center. Apart from the two main libraries devoted to both adult and children, researchers as well as other enthusiasts also have ample opportunity to learn about the environment through the various sections of the center.
The center was opened to public on 18th of May 1990. One, to preserve the representative flora and fauna, that is plant and animal species, that are found on the Lekki Peninsula. Also, as a resource center to educate the Nigerian youths and engage our local people on the importance of environmental education and creating awareness campaign on environmental and sustainable management in Nigeria.
It is the desire and passion for people of like minds coming together to want to protect what we have and then leave it especially for posterity, for our children, so that we don't have to tomorrow paint a picture or snap pictures for our children to say, oh, this animal or this bird or this tree used to. We don't want that. We want them to be able to see it the way we have the opportunity of seeing this. And that is why we are striving to maintain that. And we are doing this based on the efforts of people who have done their bits and they've left the stage, and we are also here and trying to manage what we have.
A first-time visitor or tourist is usually enchanted by the ambience of the whole area once he or she has left the expressway into this sanctuary of nature. From the reception hall, one could easily see the two entrances or trails that lead into the nature's reserve that traverses a mosaic of different vegetation, thereby revealing one of the unique selling points of the place. The reserve boasts of a woodland, a swamp forest, and a savanna within the same expanse of land.
Lekki Conservation Center vegetation is a mosaic. You have a natural swamp forest and a natural grassland. In between, it's just a micro habitat. And you now have savanna ecosystem in between two swamp forests.
Whereas the woodland houses the Mona monkeys, while open grassland is home to bushbucks, mangoes, and a variety of bird life, the swamp over which the wooden trails are laid is home to fishes, monkeys, monitor lizards, snakes, and crocodiles. Quite unlike other reserves scattered across the nation, Lekki Conservation does not thrive on the philosophy of providing cages and other accommodating facilities for most of the species that are inhabiting the center. Hence, most of the animals are allowed to roam freely as obtainable in the free range.
It has been a forest reserve, nature reserve, where you have trees, you have animals in their natural habitat. It's not a zoo. We don't keep animals in cages. We want to leave animals in their natural habitat. We have crocodiles there, we have snakes, we have some other animals in their natural habitat, so that by the time you even come in, if you are lucky, you may not be lucky to see them because they are very sensitive to sound.
Well, for this species, one of the primate species that is very prominent here is the Mona monkeys. We have troops, we have a lot of them here in the reserve, and they roam freely. I'm sure you must have seen them roaming around freely. They are in the wild. This is nature. They take care of themselves. We don't feed them. In fact, we discourage feeding so that they will maintain their natural behavior. And we want to try as much as we can to conserve them, to maintain that natural habit, which is all we're trying to do is manage their habitat, and they will take care of themselves.
Beyond the spectacle offered by the various animals, some of whom are easily discernible, the allure of the vegetation is another unique feature of the reserve. Whichever part of the range one turns to, a breathtaking vegetation usually delights the eyes. Over the last 2.5 decades, several efforts were made at widening the scope of the varieties of additional facilities available to tourists visiting the place. For instance, a tree house, which affords the tourists the opportunity to view a large expanse of the area, was put in place many years back. The house, which is seated on a stout dawa tree, rises about 45 meters above the ground. A well-protected ladder is ruggedly mounted behind the tree to enable nature's enthusiasts to reach the tree house in order to savor a panoramic view of the reserve. Added to this is the rest stops, which are located at about 250 meters apart. They are to serve as waiting areas for small groups of visitors. In order to further thrill tourists and visitors to the reserve and ensure that their visit is worth the while, a majestic canopy walkway has just been added to the place.
Lekki Conservation Center is divided into two sections. It is one, but it's divided into two sections. The first section is the forest reserve, which has taken a major chunk because that's what NCF is meant to do. That's our mandate: nature, conservation, and biodiversity. So the one that has just been delivered by the Lagos State government has been handed over to us to manage the ecotourism park and then the nature reserve. So when people come to enjoy themselves at the ecotourism park, it's also an opportunity for them to be near to nature. Let them know about nature. Let them know about the forest. Let them know about animals in their natural habitat.
The Canopy Walkway is the newest in terms of innovation and technology in Nigeria, in Nigeria and in Africa. It is the longest canopy walkway in Africa. The total length is 401 meters. It is all made of aluminum because of to withstand the salinity of the environment and the dampness, because the Lekki Nature Reserve is swamp forest. This facility has 6 major towers spread apart 50 meters, and to enhance
Pond, woodland, swamp forest, and the new jungle gene.
the first tower, the platform that we are on is 7.5 meters above the ground level. This is to allow us an ample opportunity to have a feel of the forest canopy at this height within the Lekki Nature Reserve. Is with a view to giving us panoramic view of the forest canopy and the activities within.
Climbing the Canopy Walkway can be quite exciting, particularly if one obeys the necessary safety precautions provided by the guide. Beyond the natural fear experienced at the initial stage, the entire trip on top of the walkway is usually pleasurable because each stage of the equipment presents different spectacles. Its construction was done with the highest safety standards obtainable all over the world. It's completely self-supported and made of aluminium in order to withstand the salinity of the environment and the dampness of the swamp.
We are now at Tower 3 of the LCC Canopy Walkway. It is the peak of the canopy walk within the nature reserve. The height is 22.5 meters above the ground level, and as we can see, we are mostly above most of the tree canopies here, and only a few trees that we can call emergence towers above the rest forest canopy. This is telling us that once you are at this level of the forest canopy, you can have very good view.
The completion of the journey atop the walkway, particularly from the last stage of descending it, usually provides an exhilarating sense of accomplishment and fulfillment.
This is the exit portal of the Lekki Conservation Center Canopy Walkway. We started the journey with the entrance portal, and we are now ending with the exit portal. We have just made 401 meters long canopy walkway experience. It is the longest in Africa, and second longest in the whole world.
The trip, however, is not recommended for persons less than 14 years and older than 69 years. Parents are equally prohibited from carrying children while on the Canopy Walkway. As for the savannah area of the park, it is gradually being transformed into a family park. The setting has been done in such a way that it provides the serenity and beauty of nature within the pretensions of the mangrove forests. To this end, facilities for games such as Ludo, chess, drafts, and volleyball are being added to offer a beautiful experience to visitors of the park. Other features accompanying the giant walkway is the fish pond with exotic fishes, barbecue section, gazebos, jungle gyms, and many others.
We have 9 floor games ranging from snake and ladder, ludo, draft, chess, and the street tennis. Also, for people who might want to keep fit, well, at the Lekki Conservation Center, we have 2 jungle gym facilities for children and for adult categories. We have zip lines for adults, we have zip lines for children as well. This is like a man-o-war built facilities for people, for visitors to keep fit whenever they are at the Lekki Conservation Center.
At this section of the park, there is so much to do and savor, and every member of the family, from the youngest to the oldest, would have something to be busy with. These new additions to the park is quite gratifying for the managers of the facility, since it now adds additional value to the time being spent at the park. For visitors, the opportunity to interact firsthand with nature in bustling cities like Lagos is an opportunity not to be missed for whatever reason, while the additional knowledge about biodiversity that is included in the tour can be quite useful at a later date. The park is also quite popular with children and students from different parts of the nation. While various school children are always happy and excited about the opportunity of excursion, many secondary schools and tertiary institution students are members of the conservation clubs attached to the park.
I took a lot of things. I learned about what we can use raffia tree for. We use it to make brooms, make different kind of things like the basket, and also the palm tree. Use the palm fruit to make oil, get bangasu from it, and many other things.
We are here in Lekki Conservation Center to learn more about animals and also plants that we have not seen before.
All the new innovations being added to the facility is to keep more tourists in the country by ensuring that what is being spent outside the country looking for destinations to relax can actually be spent at home by visiting places such as the conservation park. Indeed, that Nigeria is richly endowed is not in doubt. From Calabar to Jos, from Lagos to Idara Hills, from Plateau to Taraba, whichever part of the country a tourist chooses to visit, the experience will be comparable to what is obtainable in any other part of the globe.
"24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can watch ATA International live on your TV, computer, iPad, tablet, and phone. Log on visiontv.co.uk and click on Entertainment, then NTAI. You can also download the iOS or Android app on your mobile devices to watch NTA International on the go, anywhere in the world. NTA International, your window to the world.
Today's menu will be Moroccan couscous. To make the Moroccan couscous, you need couscous itself, potatoes, parsley, you need cauliflower or broccoli, olive oil, string beans, spring onions, salt, tomatoes. You need carrots and the white reddish onions. And we have the Chinese onions as well. We have zucchinis, or some people call it maru. You need the eggplants, your atarudo. This is the pepper, garlic, and the ginger. And you need chicken. This chicken, you can see the difference between the one that is seasoned and the one that is not. After washing your hands is to get the ingredients one after the other. I will start by preparing the couscous soup. I'll take a little bit of olive oil. We preheat the pan. The garlic and ginger will go in first. As it's sizzling, we put the chicken. I put the chicken breast and the rice. We bring it off the fire. The onion goes in first. Then add the pepper, the green pepper, that is the green chili, the red pepper, and the yellow ataros. Leave it for just some few seconds or minute, just a minute. Then you add the tomatoes. You can apply the stock now, any stock of your choice. Add in the chicken so that it will go, the seasonings will go in with. When the oil starts coming on, then you add the carrots, because carrots and potatoes are harder to cook, so you first put them. You can add water now and cover it for some time. As it is sizzling, let's start with the couscous, the preparation of the couscous. I'm sprinkling some salt inside and a little oil as well. I'll stir it so that it won't stick together when you're steaming it. Then I will add the Chinese onions. So as it is steaming, the cauliflower will go in. Zucchinis, they don't take long to cook. Stirring in. As you know, it's a quick cuisine, so you have to manage the time. You could as well have your soup under and the couscous above. You can make a hole in the middle so that the steam can just easily come up. I'll open this. While the stew is going, I'll just put it like this. As you can see, the steam will start coming on. A little bit of water at the more on it so that it will soften it. Then you add the zucchinis. The eggplants can go in now. You stir it. Sprinkle the cabbage. As you know, cabbage, no matter how much you put, it will go down as it cooks. Then allow it to simmer for some time as well. As you can see, it's sizzling. Everything is married together, and you see how the color comes out. You have the white and the green combined, so you can put this together back, and it will steam. As you can see, the couscous is soft enough for you to serve. You can dish it out now.
There's a start.
ECOWAS leaders to adopt better approach in tackling security threats in the sub-region.
It is imperative for us to continue to implement our regional action plan against terrorism.
The cheering news was that Mali, the sanctions against Mali were lifted.
Edo State Police Command confirms fresh kidnap of 2 Catholic priests in the state.
The federal government restates commitment to reducing maternal and child mortality.
This subject covers the entire cycle of life from beginning to end.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall discuss the outcome of President Buhari's visit to Portugal.
All right, Kieran, let me digress a bit from my producer's script and talk a little bit about, my knowledge of primary history about the Portuguese. Remember, we're told that they were the first set of explorers, to actually come in contact with the present-day Niger Delta and, of course, Nigeria. Remember, in the between the 15th and 16th centuries.
It was in the 15th century, actually, that they made the first new road through the coastline. They established trade with the great Benin Kingdom,
precisely,
as well as Lagos, and other.
And also had Lagos, in fact, Lagos is a Portuguese word, according to history. It was one of the explorers, who had come in even before the first half of the 15th century, discovered the Eco and named it Lago, which is one of the Portuguese ports, So and so that's
a good history. We're going to find out today, to what extent have we been able to leverage on that in terms of trade.
And Kingsley also, Kieran, pardon me, Kieran, the pidgin English we speak today also is said to have been derived, part of it is said to have been derived from the Portuguese Creole. And so actually the Portuguese made their first contact with the Benin Kingdom, trading in goods, of course, like cowries, spirits, copper, brass, and so on. But you would ask, how come the British colonized Nigeria?
That's the point. At the point, it became a struggle, among European countries. So many of them, had interest in colonizing Nigeria, but Britain had upper hand.
That was by the 18th century, when the Europeans started the scrambling and partitioning of Africa, and so the British took the upper hand. So back to my producer script. President Muhammadu Buhari was in Lisbon, that's the Portuguese capital, last week, and that was for a 3-day visit at the instance of the President Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa, that's the president of Portugal, and it was quite historic.
Well, it was the first state visit of President Buhari to Portugal, and it was a veritable opportunity for the two countries to revive long-standing relations, which appear to have been docile and neglected for decades.
Indeed, Kieran, as you said, it was a great honor for the Nigerian and the Portuguese leaders to stand shoulder to shoulder in Lisbon, emphasizing the need for stronger ties. That's after 46 years of diplomatic relations, and also expressing determination to take relations to a whole new level with concrete deliverables.
Now, talking about deliverables, Claire, while in Lisbon, the Nigerian president held several bilateral engagements with his Portuguese counterpart, which culminated in the signing of several agreements and memoranda of understanding between Nigeria and Portugal.
And those MOUs cut across interest in oil and gas, politics, diplomatic training, research and exchange of information and documentation. There's also cooperation in culture, gender matters, empowerment, and of course, youth and sports, digital economy, investment promotion. There's so many other, Kikire.
Yeah, and specifically speaking, in the area of energy, much of Nigeria's liquefied natural gas goes to Portugal, meeting 30% of their energy needs and making Portugal more energy secure today than most of their Russia-dependent European neighbors. And of course, the war in Ukraine is really hitting Europe, in terms of agreements between them and Russia with respect to gas supply.
Precisely. And Nigeria's liquefied natural gas is said to be very important for Portugal, especially at this time, again, as we said earlier, that Russia and Ukraine are at war, and of course the increasing Western sanctions that have been imposed on the Russian supply of oil and gas. Now, this is one area Nigeria would want to really, penetrate the European market and, to pave way for its enormous gas resources. And Kieran, we hear that the Portuguese leader has taken upon himself, to defend our interests, in the EU.
Good enough. We want to see the practical aspect of it. Just a couple of weeks ago, the Czech Republic entered into agreement with Nigeria with respect to technology transfer, and they really meant business. So we want to see such things, All right, Nigeria and Portugal equally identified a common interest in the transatlantic gas pipeline project, for which Nigeria needs investment and security. Meanwhile, the Kano-Maradi railway line being constructed by a Portuguese company, Mota and Gale, is another significant factor in the emerging relations between the two countries.
So what are the major takeaways or outcome, if you may, from Nigeria, from President Buhari's visit to Portugal, especially in the areas that we talked about, the areas that we mentioned, specifically renewable energy, military training, that was talking about security. Now, sharing of intelligence and the war against terrorism, it's also another area would want to see how we can leverage this relationship. This, of course, renewing relationship between Nigeria and Portugal. We shall be digging deep into these issues with, of course, members of the Nigerian delegation to that country. And that's how we'll start today's edition of Good Morning Nigeria, this cold morning here in Abuja, and we're reaching you on the network service of the NTA. I am Claire Adilabu Abdulrazak. Thank you for joining us, Kieran.
And I'm Kieran Umay, also welcoming to the program for today. And we are reaching you from our headquarters studio in Abuja, the nation's capital. I will serve you our usual complimentary segments of business news, newspaper review, and others in the course of today's package. For now, here is Good Morning News with Nolene Ebel-Ahmed. Hello, Nolene.
Of course, who's just been back from the holy pilgrimage, and she brings with her lots of blessings. Nolene.
Of course. Good
to have you.
Good. Thank you so much. Good to see you, Kieran and Claire. And good morning, Nigeria. This is the news. The authority of ECOWAS heads of state governments say they have resolved to adopt a better approach in confronting a security threat and a new wave of attacks in coastal countries of the community. At the 61st Ordinary Session in Accra, the West African Power Bloc also elected Guinea-Bissau President Umaru Sissoco Embalo as new chairman of the Authority of Heads of State and Government.
One of the major issues that was considered today, of course, was the question of sanctions, the sanctions that had been imposed against Mali and some of the other countries that had previously been the subject of undemocratic takeover of power. And I think that the cheering news was that Mali, the sanctions against Mali were lifted, the financial and commercial sanctions were lifted. That's just one aspect of the sanctions. And we expect to see progress in terms of transition to democracy, to civil rule again.
The federal government has restated commitment to reducing high prevalence of maternal and child death in the country. The Minister of Health, Dr. Osagi Ihanire, stated this at the launch of a policy document on reproductive, maternal, child, adolescent, and elderly plus nutrition health.
This subject covers the entire cycle of life from beginning to end. It covers prevention of disease, promotion of health, cure of illness, and mental well-being.
Concerted efforts are being made to ensure that the Calabar port becomes more viable. The efforts are targeted at resolving all lingering issues affecting its optimal performance and attracting business operators to the port. With the recent influx of vessels to the port, including the Singapore bulk cargo vessel, experts predict Calabar Port will fast become an economic window of employment.
If you receive 72 vessels, revenue generated in Calabar Port came up to $6.5 million.
About 2 days ago, a vessel came in with a lot of trucks and equipment. So modernization of ports is holistic. It's not just about Tinkan or Apapa. We are talking about holistic modernization of all the ports that are owned and operated by Nigerian Ports Authority.
Works are in progress at the phase 3 of Abuja Kaduna Kano dual carriageway with 44% completion. Director Highways, Construction and Rehabilitation of the Federal Ministry of Works and Housing, Folorunsho.
We will finish this road from Zaria to Kano in the first quarter 2023.
Talking security now, the Edo State Police Command has confirmed the kidnap of Reverend Father Udo Peter and Philemon Ovo of St. Dominic Catholic Church, Uboha, on Sunday, 3rd July 2022, and taken to an unknown place by some kidnappers along Benin-Auchi Expressway between Oho and Iroquois communities. In a statement by the Police Public Relations Officer, Edo State Police Command, Benin City SP Chidi Nwabuzu explains that the command has launched a coordinated manhunt in arresting the kidnappers and for the rescuing of the Reverend Fathers unhurt. The CP solicits for the cooperation of the public in giving information to the police and other sister security agencies in policing Edo State. Elsewhere, the Inspector General of Police, Usman Alkali Baba, has applauded the Oyo State Police Command for the arrest of 6 members of a notorious bank robbery gang. A statement by the Force Public Relations Officer Olumiwa Adejobi says the suspects were arrested after concluding plans to execute a bloody bank robbery attack on a new generation bank within the Ibadan metropolis in Oyo State. Similarly, the IGP also commended the successful arrest of 5 members of a fraud syndicate who specializes in hacking into bank accounts of individuals and corporate bodies to steal monies. The suspects were apprehended while attempting to hack into a company's account to steal the sum of 3.4 billion naira. The IRT operatives equally arrested a notorious arms dealers and 2 kidnapped suspects in Kaduna and the rescue of 2 kidnapped victims in their custody. CSP Adejobi says all the suspects will be charged to court upon conclusion of investigations. That's the news for now. Good morning. Nigeria continues with Claire and Kirian after this break. I am Nolene Ebelame. Good morning.
Wake up the champion in your child. Give them energy to go further. Milo Active Go and the natural goodness of malt, milk, and cocoa helps wake up the champion in your child. Milo!
I'm a teacher by profession. I trained as a nurse. I could not even remember some of them, but by their approach, greeting, and respect, I make beads. Liquid soap is, I have stopped buying liquid soap from the market. I make it, and I teach this young one how to do that. And when I do, it is not for any fee.
In most cases, I serve as consultants. Many people come to me inquiring how to go about doing the farming. I normally direct them on what to do.
Right now, I'm not into any paid job, as I said, but I'm happy doing what I'm doing.
Senior citizens over the years have shown that they are still capable of working.
They have shown that retirement is only but a social construct, not a limitation. Senior citizens until the end carry around a wealth of knowledge that we can tap into. They have walked these journeys we now walk today. They have amassed all of these experiences so they can stand holding the torch so we do not stumble in the dark. Our senior citizens are national assets packed full with inestimable value. They should not be condemned to a life of obscurity, but one where they serve to illuminate our path. Promoting senior citizens for intergenerational workforce.
Arise, O Nigerians! Let's applaud the courage of Flight Lieutenant Abayomi Dairo, aka the Aggressor, for his skillful and dogged escape from the bloodthirsty bandits in the forest of Zamfara State. 3 hearty cheers also to all military and security personnel who are tirelessly protecting fellow Nigerians from insurgency and banditry while maintaining peace and order. Nigerians are proud of Abayomi Dairo and all our gallant men and women in uniform for sacrificing so much to keep us safe. We admire your courage and we say thank you. God bless the armed forces. God bless Nigeria. This message is from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Motlalo, Nigeria are the 9th champions in this competition.
The 12th edition of the Africa Women's Cup of Nations is here with 12 teams including reigning champions and 9-time winners Super Falcons of Nigeria, all in contention from July 2 to 23 in Rabat, Morocco. You can catch all the actions live on the NTA Network Service and NTA Sports 24, channel 270 on StarTimes, 434 on StarSat and 731 on Free TV. Come, join us to promote another championship run by the Super Falcons. For your advert placement, please call Hawa on 0803 312 1022. Africa Women's Cup of Nations, Rabat 2022. Game on!
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria, the network service of the NTA. It's time now for business news, and for this we join Comfort Amodu.
Oil demand continues to soar in spite of projected demand destruction, with bullish sentiment as uncertainty builds around the supply capacity of OPEC+. OPEC Plus agreed to maintain a 648,000 barrel per day increase in its production target for August, keeping its commitment unchanged. Nigerian's Minister of State for Petroleum, Timi Silva, has said the country's crude oil production will meet the OPEC quota for August as the country tightens up security in the oil industry. In the coming week, oil prices are expected to drop as fears of global recession linger, while cocoa prices are expected to drop as major producers witness favorable weather conditions, which could boost yield, thereby putting pressure on the price. The Nigerian Export Promotion Council is building the capacity of young entrepreneurs to be actively involved in international business through e-marketing, by preparing them to take advantage of the largest opportunity to export products and services.
This is part of the effort to try to, educate our youth, to try in as much as possible to reach the market access gap that has been, identified in youth-owned companies and cooperative societies whose product has been identified with market potential.
The capacity building program put together by the MENA Export Assistant Office of the Council is geared towards harnessing the export potentials of youths in Niger State.
So one of the things I benefit is that with my phone, I can quite make a lot of money.
So I get to find out that there are a lot of things pertaining the e-marketing, how you brand your products, how to start up your business online.
Hussaina Musa reports that the NAPC in its export survival drive is also strengthening e-commerce platforms that will connect the creative industry to the international market. With business news, Comfort and Modu.
Many thanks, Comfort, for the business news. Up ahead is newspaper review.
All right, and it's time to introduce Bayo Atoyebe, who's already here with us in the studio. Good morning, Bayo.
Good morning. Did you know how it felt today? With this kind of drizzling rain, you were always very reluctant. I had to kick myself
to get out of bed,
yes.
especially if you're in the other room.
Yes.
If you're in the other room.
Good morning, Claire. Good morning,
welcome,
Good morning, Nigeria.
All right, thank God you are here, Bayo.
Yeah. Okay,
we're glad to have you.
Let's begin with the Punch newspaper. The Punch newspaper, above the nameplate of the Punch, 165 naira per litre fuel. Depot owners shun federal government's directive. Marketers give conditions. Page 31. IOC's investment threat to Nigeria's oil sector. Federal government. It's on page 35 of the Punch newspaper. And then 28 die in Ogun. Yobe road crashes. FRSC cautions night travelers. The story can be read on pages 4 and 5. Years after controversy surrounds 300 billion naira textile revival fund. Details on page 9. Banks' assets rise by 21% to 64.32 trillion naira, says CBN. Details on page 38. Nigerian adults with bank accounts hit 45%. That's according to a bank. It's on page 32. Now, the lead story on the Punch newspaper this morning: PDP orders panel to beg Wike drop Okowa. Governors rallies insist. That's on page 2. Well, the headline has 3 riders. Ex-VP's price for picking Okowa over Wike may be to lose. Reps, others, Rivers, Governor, PDP's pillar, who will beg him not to defect, argues BOT chairman. Replacing Wike with Okowa will create more crisis, says PDP chieftains. All right. Below the photo story on the Punch newspaper this morning, we have some other headlines here. You don't need gun for self-defense at Deboye tells Christians. That's on page 16. Nigeria now like war zone. Methodist Archbishop laments. It's on page 30. ASU strike enters 140th day. Serap others lampoon federal government. It's on page 16. Now at the bottom, we have Northerners wound back will be, says Kwankwaso Labour Party kicks. It's on page 22. Man sets estranged wife ablaze, burning woman, grabs suspect, both die. Pages 4 and 5. Finally, gunmen abduct 2 Edo Catholic priests, 6 Enugu residents. It's on page 5 of the Punch newspaper. The Punch is indeed loaded this morning.
And so is the Nation, Kieran. The front page is quite busy this morning, but let's start off with politics, and that's the headline at this morning. PDP crisis, Atiku forecloses discussion and office sharing, and the writer to that story, Standard Bearer to meet Wike and lead reconciliation process. A bit above the nameplate, 1.4 trillion naira recovered from debtors, says AMCON. It's on page 7. The stock exchange axes 9 firms over poor governance. Details of that on page 13. And 10 dead, 7 injured in Yobe road accident, while acting accountant general and Emekwe replaced. Details of those stories you can find on page 5. And Osho is tucked in there. Osho 2022. Air Force planes to convey sensitive materials. INEC hold mock accreditation. 18 thugs arrested. Youth Corps member, INEC officials held for PVC fraud. Again, I take that. Youth Corps member, INEC officials held for PVC fraud. Okay, let's go down. Just stories trending below the headline. 70,000 ghost workers MDA directors face ICPC probe. It's on the left-hand column, that's your right there. Now, duty on imported pre-2013 vehicles rises by 120%. Importers of low-cost cars, buses out of business. The picture story, a very sad one there, is on the scene of the fatal crash that happened on Saturday night on the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, in which we are told 18 died, unfortunately. That story, it's on page 6. And I think that's just the outlook of the nation this morning.
Yes, Claire, our hearts must go to the relatives of those who died in those crashes. It's very ironical. Initiatives are on to improve on infrastructure of our highway, and the more the roads are improved, the increase in road accidents, and it is only attributable to overspeeding. Lagos-Ibadan Expressway has been closed down for a long time under reconstruction. Just when we are getting to the end of the construction being completed, you can see what we are having there at massive accidents, especially night travels.
Night travels.
The other one that was reported was also in Yobe. And you recall that over the weekend, the president was represented in commissioning some of the highway there. And one of the highways there is as good as anywhere you can find in the world. And the price we are getting is overspeeding, and it's becoming, rather than being a very useful infrastructure, it's becoming a death trap.
The FRSC boss, in one of the reports, in fact, we took on our station, did say that overspeeding, route and overspeeding violations and speed violations, are major causes of some of these fatal accidents. And the commission has warned travelers not to do night travels. If they must travel, they should plan their journey so that it falls within time that can be visible and all that. But us for who we are,
night travel, I've been wondering over and over again with respect to night travel. I used to do that a long time ago. It's one of the most dangerous decisions you can ever take. But some people's businesses rely on night travel. Most of them who engage in trade or in trading, sometimes you have to now leave in the night, arrive in the place in the morning, do your shopping, leave the next night, and so on. So it's affecting. I tried to stop some people I know then, and even now, to stop doing that, including my own relation, to say, look, that if he stops doing that, his business will collapse.
Yes, but
and again, when you talk about Nigeria's drive culture, see, we are one of the worst globally. Not just speeding, dangerous driving, wrongful overtaking within the city. People are flying up to 120 kilometers per hour in the city.
And overtaking at bends most often than not,
my God,
where you cannot see ahead.
You cannot see.
Those are the instances where you have such fatal crashes. There's some good news now coming from Kachia local government area. There are preparations going on for Salah now, and the Christian community at Kachia local government gathered and joined their Muslim neighbors to clear the Eid grounds in preparation for Salah. So on Saturday and Sunday, they gathered there and helped them to clear the Eid grounds. Eid ground is usually in the outskirts of the town. And Mr. Daniel Bitrus, who led the Christians, said, well, this is a gesture to show that we are our neighbor's keeper, and a gesture for peace, that they can live together and be tolerant of one another.
Precisely.
And his counterpart, the spokesperson for Jamaat Nasruddin Islam, Ibrahim Tasi, he also confirmed that, in fact, on the days, the Christian volunteers came to the site even before the Muslims, and they helped them in clearing the ground. Salah is expected to be on Saturday. Such things are very encouraging, especially when it is coming from Kaduna in Kachia local government, where there have been instances of religious upheavals and crisis.
It's such encouraging. I wish we could have the visuals of that story, Bayo. Honestly, these are the kind of stories that we should be encouraging and should be coming out, from our communities. Bayo, we have just 2 more minutes for you.
Okay, 2 more minutes. Okay. What can we say now? INEC says that it is ready for the election in Osun. As at now, they have about 1,957,669 voters that are to cast votes in 30 local government areas. 15 political parties will be contesting the election. But the INEC commissioner in charge for information and voter education advised the media, our colleagues, that yes, it is good to break the news, but be sure all the news you are breaking so that you don't.
You saw the story that the nation is carrying about the youth corps member and INEC officials who have been held for PVC fraud.
That's good. Again, if you recall, in the last election that happened at Ekiti, some persons were actually arrested for vote buying, selling votes and buying votes, which is a cry as far as election is concerned. The challenge now is that the arresting authority will now have to provide all the necessary information. Then it will be the duty of INEC to have them prosecuted. But the National Assembly is now proposing a law to establish a separate entity that will be responsible for such. Because for INEC to organize election and also turn around to come and try people who are violating the law will be in fact overburdening them. But all said, our Falcons are playing their first match today in the current Women African Cup of Nations. Our opponents are Bayana, the South Africans. We used to beat them about 10-0 in those days, but gradually they are growing. The last time, they even succeeded in beating us about 2-1. But today, our girls have assured us that they will change them from Bayana to Banana, and then eat them up.
Claire read, with respect to INEC official and the youth corps, it's a different ball game. This one is at the point of trying to get people registered. But I've seen some interviews on other channels, where some people were complaining that they were asked to pay some money to be able to be registered. Right? Perhaps it's part of the fraud. I'm just wondering, why would there be fraud in women registering? Without card fraud, what do you intend to gain if not to ask for money? All right. Okay. Now we call it a day here on this segment.
The match is 9 p.m. today.
Yeah.
Today. I'm sure you will.
Did you watch the end of the Senegal?
Yes. They're very interesting.
Okay. Well, who won? I know that Senegal got a penalty kick before I took off.
Yes.
Okay, Bayo, once again, thank you for coming. We hope to see you again tomorrow for more analysis on what the papers are saying. You are watching Good Morning Nigeria on NTA Network Service. You take a short break now. When we return, we shall, of course, be looking at President Buhari's visit to Portugal and the outcomes. Stay with us.
What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? Millions of Nigerians have received COVID-19 vaccine. I have taken my own. What about you? We have taken our own. What about you? I am strong and healthy. What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? We are strong and healthy. What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? Go and get your job. The hospitals, churches, and the mosques. Go and get your job. Health center, hurry up now. Don't be late. Go and get your job. Bye-bye, Corona. Bye-bye, Corona. This message is brought to you by the National Primary Health Care Development Agency, NPHCDA.
To every politician, as the campaigns gain momentum and passions begin to rise, remember, the errors of your opponents do not make you a success. Do not run down your opponent and inflame passions to violence between and among your supporters. What counts is what you plan to do for the electorate and how you intend to relieve the sufferings and bring succor. Nigeria is in dire need of patriotic leaders at all levels, leaders who will make national development their priority. Concentrate on telling the electorate what you intend to do when you get into office. Focus on making your vision clear to the electorate. Don't engage in verbal abuses, fake news or speeches. Keep dealing with issues that will bring progress. Let's join hands to make the 2023 elections peaceful. A message from the National Orientation Agency. A new edition of TV Guide is out, exclusively with Professor Umar Garba Dambata, Executive Vice Chairman of the Nigerian Communications Commission (NCC).
We have unveiled the 622 as a toll-free line through which consumers can be able to lodge their complaints. And we have introduced the 112 as the national emergency number.
This edition is a compendium of mind-blowing stories for your reading pleasure, ranging from technology, entertainment, economy, media, politics, family, and lots more. Pick up your copy and get abreast with issues and trending features within our space. TV Guide, very incisive, very educative and compelling. Grab a copy at the vendor near you or any NTA station nationwide. TV Guide, your indispensable companion.
Lalo, Nigeria are the 9th champions in this competition.
The 12th edition of the Africa Women's Cup of Nations is here with 12 teams including reigning champions and 9-time winners, Super Falcons of Nigeria, all in contention from July 2 to 23 in Rabat, Morocco. You can catch all the actions live on the NTA Network Service and NTA Sports 24, Channel 270 on StarTimes, 434 on StarSat and 731 on Free TV. Come, join us to promote another championship run by the Super Falcons. For your advert placement, please call Hawa on 0803 312 1022. Africa Women's Cup of Nations, Rabat 2022. Game on!
All right, welcome back to the program. If you've just joined us, you're watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. And today we will be looking at the outcome of President Buhari's visit to Portugal. And if you recall, we said that Portugal was one of the foremost European travelers or explorers, to come in contact with the people of Nigeria. But let's take this background report put together by our correspondent Abdul Salam Jubril.
International affairs experts note that the functions of the president of a country includes establishing the country's foreign policy, conducting international negotiations, as well as a national spokesperson. This involves meeting foreign leaders and diplomats to improve or maintain good relations with other countries. No doubt, this has been the driving force behind President Muhammadu Buhari's several visits abroad, along with the zeal to revive important bilateral relationships that have suffered neglect. At the invitation of President Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa, President of Portugal, President Buhari was in Lisbon, the country's capital, for a 3-day visit. This is the first state visit of President Buhari to Portugal, and experts note that the invitation by his Portuguese counterpart speaks volume. While in Lisbon, the Nigerian president held several bilateral engagements which culminated in the signing of agreements and memoranda of understanding (MOU) between Nigeria and Portugal. The MOU signed include political consultations, diplomatic training, research and the exchange of information and documentation, cooperation in the field of culture, and cooperation in the field of women and girls development, empowerment and gender affairs, youth and sports. With Nigeria now Portugal's major natural gas supplier, the president used the visit to seek an extension to supply gas to Europe against the backdrop of the Russia-Ukraine crisis. President Buhari also called for a broader partnership beyond oil and gas to critical areas such as security and aviation. Trade was also top on the agenda, with the president calling for an increase in the volume of trade with Portugal as well as diversification to non-oil products. In typical fashion, President Buhari also met with Nigerians living in Portugal, where he cautioned Nigerians abroad against the use of social media to insult and incite from what he calls a safe and anonymous distance, urging them to always promote Nigeria's unity. Nigeria perhaps earlier struck a positive chord that resonates diplomatically with Portugal in the choice of Jose Pizarro, the Portuguese coach of the Super Eagles. What impact will these agreements and MOUs have on the economy and ordinary Nigerians? Are the agreements and MOUs a win-win for both countries? Guests on Good Morning Nigeria will give their perspectives in a moment.
Salam.
All right, thank you, Abdusalam, for that background report. And joining us in the studio this morning to discuss this very important topic is Garba Shehu, who is a senior special assistant to the president on media and publicity. Good morning and welcome.
Thank you, Kirian. Thank you.
All right, and also with us here in the studio is me, Akinsiju, financial and investment analyst. So, well, of course, it's a known face on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
All right.
And also joining us via Zoom from Lisbon for this conversation is Ambassador Alex Kefas, and he's Nigeria's ambassador to Portugal. Your Excellency, thank you very much for joining us. We are glad you could make it.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so let's begin with you, Your Excellency. This visit by President Buhari to Portugal has been roundly described as first-class success. Experts and economic experts who've been analyzing the visit, say it is a first-class success. Can you give us, lead us into this success and give us an idea of how it all went?
Well, thank you so much, Good Morning Nigerians. I would like first of all to thank His Excellency President Muhammad Buhari, GCFR, President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, for accepting to pay this important, unique and exceptional state visit to Portugal. This visit has long been overdue. It was highly expected both here in Portugal. Mr. President's arrival in Portugal was very unique. It is indeed a great pleasure to have our leader in Portugal. Nigeria and Portugal diplomatic relations dated back to 1976, when the two countries established their diplomatic relations at ambassadorial level. The visit of Mr. President brought in a very important, remarkable landmark in the history of our bilateral relationship. We were indeed grateful to Mr. President for finding it to come to Portugal. Nigeria and Portugal share important bilateral relationship in the area of economy. We have Portugal importing 60% of its gas resources from Nigeria, and Nigeria imports from Portugal mostly manufactured goods, pharmaceuticals, wine, etc. So to us, that this visit that led to so many agreements that were signed
we are also hoping that these agreements will be fully implemented.
All right, Your Excellency, let me also ask you to do further evaluation of this visit, which you described as first class and very important. Claire and I were actually, tracing the history of Nigeria-Portugal relations in terms of trade and what have you, which dated back to 15th century, and all that. In fact, Portuguese were the first to come into Nigeria at the time. Now, we have not been able to leverage on that, for over decades now. And today, of course, from what you have said, the president is trying to rekindle relationship between us and Portugal. What will be your takeaway, from these meetings, with respect to all the MOUs that have been signed during that visit? What will you be telling Nigerians as our representative in that country to say, look, Nigerians, this is a part of what you're going to get by this kind of new engagement?
Thank you so much. The visit of Mr. President has led to an upsurge in our bilateral relationship. So the agreements that were signed that are very, very important to us, we have the investment and trade between the two countries. Particularly, we had Nigeria Investment Promotion Commission, and its counterpart were able to sign this important agreement. Of course, that to propel our economy, we need private sectors, where NACIMA was also able to sign agreement with the Portuguese counterpart. Other areas of importance, of course, to us, there was agreement signed between the two countries that was in the area of youth and sport. Of course, we know that we are lovers of sport. Currently, we have nearly 300 Nigerian footballers playing in Portuguese clubs. So this agreement will go a long way by bringing in so many of our youths that who want to have their own profession in football. So this agreement is really indeed very, very important to us. And the Minister of Youth and Sport was here during the meeting. He was also encouraged to visit the sports city, so to see things by himself. And of course, we are all aware that the new coach that we just recruited is a Portuguese. So this important instrument will now give way for further collaborations in the area of sports. Then another important agreement that were signed, we have political consultation between the Minister of Foreign Affairs and the Portuguese Minister of Foreign Affairs here, where the two foreign ministers were able now to kick start. That will lead to some other areas of cooperation, like the joint commission that we are also expecting. So after these political consultations, we are going to have a joint commission. So joint commission is an umbrella that will bring in so many other activities. Also, we had agreement that were signed in the area of women affairs. So which is very important. So this capture areas that will also advance the interests of women, and not only women, including children. So these are agreements that I believe that would go a long way. Apart from this agreement, of course, Mr. President also made it clear to his counterpart that we also need to engage Portugal in other areas like agriculture, energy, investment, and also other areas that would also promote this bilateral relationship. Not only gas, as you are aware, Portugal imports more of gas from Nigeria. So this visit has now brought the two business communities. As you are aware, that there was a business forum where we had about nearly 60 businessmen and women that came to Portugal. So that event was colorful, very unique, first in the history of our bilateral relationship. Mr. President also discussed with his counterpart the need for collaboration in the area of security. Of course, we are all aware that Nigeria is battling with insecurity issues. Portugal has been help to so many countries in Africa, in particular Mozambique and Central African Republic. It is also helping Guinea-Bissau. So the president called our president to continue to assist and also thank him for doing so. So these are the areas that we believe that the two countries can now have a very important lead. So in the past, the relationship has been not been so much positive in the sense that Portuguese people don't really know Nigerians. Equally, Nigerians don't know Portuguese. So, but this visit has now brought these two people together to really understand themselves. So, people-to-people contact is very, very key. So, I believe that from now,
Ambassador Kefas, thank you. You've reeled out, in fact, almost all the outcomes here. But as we go deeper into the conversation, we'll take each of those items one by one. Let me also bring into our conversation someone who was also visible at that visit, and that's Malam Garba Shehu, Senior Special Assistant to the President of Media and Publicity. I'd like for you to tell us whether you felt at home. We know that Portugal and Nigeria, share some very democratic values, and like the ambassador says, this is taking the ambassadorial relationship to the next level. Was it like homecoming for the Nigerian delegation?
Yeah, I've been privileged to accompany the president to a number of these visits, and I must say that this was really outstanding. Looking at the full commitment of the host country, Portugal, that having to throw everything, all levels of authority were involved in this visit. It's rare to see, everyone coming to the table, President, Prime Minister, President of National Assembly, even Mayor of the capital city, all of them being present, at one or two events at which our president, was being honored. It's very clear that they are yearning for very close, strategic relationship with Nigeria. And of course, we don't blame them because these are taken very long in coming. The ambassador has been speaking, and the introductory report did say this. Where did they miss out when they were the first country that they made contact, with the territory now called Nigeria? They gave Lagos its own name.
Precisely.
So they were there from the beginning, well ahead of the British. But then you can see that the level of engagement had really been, in fact, I think the president's visit is in effect, to see that there are relationships that have been ignored or abandoned for some time and are not being, effectively taken up in order to ensure that we drive the benefits of the president of President Sousa of Portugal, in welcoming the president, said, "I have waited 6 years for you to come." He'd been nagging our president to come and visit 6 years until this one now came. So really, the visit had come at a very important trajectory in the relations between our two countries, and a clear indication that the two countries are ready for, in fact, the president of Portugal called it a marriage. that has just been consummated between our two nations.
Okay, but thank you. Marriage, business and diplomatic marriage, if you ask me, and having traced the history of the Portuguese of Nigeria, it's understandable that the president made this move from all you have explained, as well as Ambassador Kevas in Lisbon there. Okay, let's turn to Ni Akinsijo. The MOU signed cut across interests in oil and gas, politics, diplomatic relations, training, research, agriculture, and what have you. And what could come to mind is how will these sectors be properly coordinated with respect to the bilateral agreements reached, and how would that be patterned in such a way that we can have a successful implementation of whatever is agreed? Because in the past we have had several bilateral engagements with the international community, and in some cases you may not have results. Just a few weeks ago, the Czech Republic entered into agreement with Nigeria with respect to technology transfer, and the president himself inaugurated a committee on that way back in 2021, and now it is manifesting. One would like to see such, with respect to the visits to Portugal.
Thank you. The substance of MOU is actually anchored on the historical relationship between two countries. If you have bilateral relationship, between amongst two people, two countries. So for me, I think already there's a momentum around the manifestation of the close to 10 MOUs signed. There is an ongoing relationship. Though it's been a summary format over the years. If we had some more years to the 6 years President Sousa had been waiting for President Muhammadu Buhari, it would be about 17 years since a Nigerian leader visited Portugal, or since there was even a formal engagement between a Nigerian leader and a Portuguese leader. So this is a hallmark visitation, as it were, for me, especially considering the fact of history, because history is important in bilateral relationship. It has been said that pre-colonial period we've had engagements and interaction with the Portuguese people. In fact, the Portuguese had representation in the Benin Empire Palace, in those days. So now there's been a development over the years. I'm talking about recent times, where Portuguese companies, and businesses have been relating, substantively with Nigerian government and businesses too. The Kano-Maradi railway line is being constructed, by a Portuguese company. And to that extent, what is even impressive is that there's a general belief that railway constructions would be undertaken only by the Chinese companies. So when there's an assumption that the Kano-Maradi line is also going to be constructed by the Chinese, but no, I think an international bidding, was facilitated, and the Portuguese company was involved, and of course secured on a very transparent basis, secured the contract, to construct, and they have now also perhaps become at par with the Chinese company that is putting together a University of Railway, the Railway Transportation University in Nigeria. The Motor Engil, the company that is constructing the Kano-Maradi line, is also putting together a University of Railway Transportation too. And even more than that, I know that 300 engineers are to be sent to Portugal for training, along so that it will be, you have Nigerian content in the construction. So that is, of course, facilitating jobs, for Nigerians, and that it will be these Nigerians that will also, at least at the mid-level cadre,
it will be these Nigerian engineers that will be involved in this construction. That is good to develop that industry. Now going forward, I am believing that this talk about gas is a major game changer for us. Nigeria is seen to be a gas endemic jurisdiction, but we have come into a dilemma over the last 1 or 2 years with the campaigns in metropolitan Europe, capitals of Europe, against carbon emissions. So much that some countries in Europe are trying to declare gas, as it were, a dirty fuel. And meanwhile, we are saying, yes, we understand the issues around emissions, but as developing countries, there is a need to also classify gas as a transition, energy, so that because that campaign is affecting investments, in exploration and production of gas. And we have more than 200 million metric tons, cubic feet of gas. Somewhere is still lying fallow that we need to transform into commercial values. So if we have a country in Europe that is desirous of continuous engagement, with our gas, it means that we still have huge hope for revenue generation, especially foreign exchange in that section. And I heard, of course, that the President Sousa declared that he is willing to to pipe gas, under the sea from Nigeria to Portugal. So the prospect for me is huge.
Okay, thank you. I like the prospects that you used to target, and indeed, I return to Lisbon and bring into a conversation again the Ambassador Alex Kefas. Nigeria again is looking towards Portugal for partnership in the area of security, and I'm wondering if you could give us some ideas or some insight into Portugal's capacity in this regard, and how we will leverage on whatever partnership we are forging in the area of intelligence sharing.
Thank you so much. Security is very key during the discussion between the two presidents, because without security, of course, that we cannot have stability, and then, of course, there won't be any economic development. Portugal, of course, we have that military cooperation. Portugal has been of great assistance to Africa. Like Portugal is involved, like I said before, in the training and intelligence sharing to countries like Central African Republic, and then of course the Sahel, then Mozambique, and then Guinea-Bissau. So it was part of the discussion, Mr. President, that solicited the assistance of the Portuguese in assisting Nigeria with intelligence sharing and the training of its armed forces. So this is very key for us to really defeat the insurgency. So it is a great concern that not only the insecurity that we have in the Sahel, it is a great concern. We also have issues of security in the Gulf of Guinea. So Portuguese Navy already is also participating with our own armed forces to curb the menace of piracy. So Portugal, of course, has a comparative advantage. Don't forget that most of the time that Portugal has been attending our regular annual naval exercises. So it is an important partner that we can achieve if we genuinely and then follow up these issues so that Nigerians have come to realize that Portuguese people, they are very nice people, are ready to work with Africa. They have been working with most of the Portuguese colonies. So it is part of this that now this visit will now bring the Portuguese security apparatus with Nigerian security systems, so that we're able to work together, to collaborate in order to defeat terrorism in not only in Africa also, but in particular our own country. So this is very important, and I believe that this will be achieved in the shortest possible time.
Okay, Ambassador Kefa, thank you. I also like to ask Malam Garba Shehu some question, because the ambassador has said that Portugal has comparative advantage in this area of security and military intelligence, and I'm wondering if you consider the fact that even the colonies or the countries within Africa, Guinea-Bissau, Sao Tome and Principe, and even Cape Verde, they're not really as stable, and even Nigeria provides some form of stability, in other areas for these countries. So, what exactly are we, eliciting from Portugal in the area of security?
Well, I think that the scenario speaks to the convergence that we are witnessing or about to witness between their strategic interests in the region and our own. Yes, it is true. Portugal has also, an association of their, former colonial territory with their former colonial, as we have our own Commonwealth and so on. I think that it resonates very well with them that in spite of Nigeria being outside of that fold, Nigeria has shown commitment in matters of security and stability in these former colonial territories of Portugal, particularly in Guinea-Bissau. If you recall, some months back, I guess sometime last year, when they had a disputed election in Guinea-Bissau, and there was a hostile parliament and hostile meet, it was Nigeria's interest in Guinea-Bissau and in ensuring, the stabilization of that country and sustenance of democracy that ensured that, they didn't play games with the outcome of them. And in the end, of course, the president, the prime minister, Umaru Sissoco, was inaugurated after the Constitutional Court has given its backing eventually. So, and the matters of security are no longer confined to the Sahel region. They are creeping into the coastal states as well. So if you're a coastal state and you think that this problem had belonged to those of us neighboring the Sahel, now you have a common thing to share. So we have much to worry about. And so therefore, yes, they are present for peacekeeping, roles in this part of the world. And so we will share responsibility, we will do these things. We need every hand to be on deck. And even in the matters of the transportation, the exportation of gas that we so want to do, you can see clearly that there is also another convergence there, because you have 2+. And the GMD of NNPC Mirakela was there. They had a stand at the business side of the discussions. And the Portuguese were quick to say, look, it is better you take the maritime route to Europe than the trans-Saharan route for reasons of security. And you know that Portugal had been a maritime power. In fact, perhaps the earliest global maritime power. Precisely. Because that's why they were here ahead of all the others. So it's security would bring us working together. We're already buying from them drones, for instance. And so they're making advances in some of these areas.
Okay, thank you. Let's return to I can see you once more. I like the term you used. We say gas endemic jurisdiction. In fact, Nigeria is actually sitting on a 206.53 trillion cubic feet of gas, and of course, in dollars, it could go about over 803.4 trillion dollars, according to estimation. All right. So now with the channel, being opened now between us and Portugal, and with the current situation with respect to gas, globally, we've talked about transatlantic gas pipeline and what have you. So how will these kind of relations now being established with Portugal impact on this project now that Nigeria we want to explore avenues to sell her gas, which of course will have in abundance?
Well, when I heard that news, I was quite excited because we are coming to a time when the natural resources that had been the mainstay of our economy had become more or less threatened, especially with the European, I don't want to use the word global, the European campaign against so-called dirty fuel. It's as if our resources are going to be locked in because investors are actually jetting out, of investing in crude oil, gas, and all that because of this campaign about dirty fuel. Now, what that does is to reduce capacity, even of plants and wells that are in operation now. It reduces capacity for exploration, for discovery of new, possibilities, new frontiers, and all that. And again, that would have a ricochet effect, on employment, on job creation, on values, on exports, on earnings, revenues, and all that. So when you have a major European player making this intervention, it is not just about Portugal alone. It has its own contagious effect. Other European countries will start looking towards Nigeria as a major challenges solution. Major solution to the gas supply, the supply chain disruption they are having with Russia and all that because of this Russian-Ukraine conflict. So now, if we are able to have that, one, it means that we will now have more investors coming into that sector of the economy. It also means that there will be a rejuvenation of activities around that industry. And more than anything else, we will have activities around the natural resources that is ours. And the fact is that the global, this conflict, this Russian-Ukraine conflict, has a telling effect on our revenue earnings, and we are having issues with shortage of foreign exchange, dollar especially. So with the coming of investors, of course, we'll be talking of capital importation. We'll have more money coming into the system, and more than that, we should also wonder, it's not an immediate thing because it's about trafficking investors, from the metropolitan countries and metropolitan capitals of the world into Nigeria once again. Now you have an excitement around the oil and gas industry. Oil and gas, especially for us, has become a major player in energy provision, in domestic use and all that. So if we have more people, more investors coming in to invest, it's good for the economy. We are going to have a rebounding economy. For instance, I tell people that 2019 was supposed to be our takeoff, especially under President Buhari. But we had that slowdown with the global crude oil pricing in 2014 that snowballed into a recession in 2016. Thank God the right policies were applied. We were exiting that and actually was going to start flying in 2019. By 2019, we started having the slowdown that now, peaked with the COVID-19 crisis. As we were getting out of that COVID-19 crisis, that also impacted price of crude oil, and quantity sold, and of course that has multiplier effect on the Nigerian economy. We were getting out of that when we had the Russian Ukraine crisis. So as it were, this is a serious beacon of hope, for the rejuvenation of that industry.
Indeed, Niyi, and I was wondering why other countries have not really realized the fact that, they can get their gas supplies from us. But be that as it may, what is happening in Europe now is temporary. I mean, the Russian-Ukrainian war and the disruptions, it's temporary. The war will not last forever. The war will certainly come to an end, and gas supplies to European countries or to the EU would resume again. So now that we're trying to court Portugal to help us, get into the European market, when it happens, what happens?
It's not, big powers, strong powers don't like to be dependent on a source. So while that has been convenient to be dependent on Russia over time, now there's a sudden awakening to the fact that Russia could actually hold us hostage, because we don't have an alternative source of this very important source of energy. So now it's going to be a deliberate a plan, a conscious plan to create alternative to Russian dependency. And of course, where are you looking at? We're looking at Nigeria, So, and this is why the President Sousa, is offering the alternative of piping through the maritime channels. So, and it's true, if you have to, I don't think it is appropriate to forget the Trans-Saharan pipe, to either Algeria or to Morocco. But if you have the alternative again of piping to through the Atlantic beds, it even makes your options very robust, But more importantly, it is like giving life back to the oil and gas sector. Because seriously, all over the world, there's this conscious, fear over what will happen to investment, what will happen to these resources that we are depending on. And there has been a huge advocacy around the fact that Europe cannot abandon developing countries who have all these resources. And you expect to, just like you transited from coal, to crude oil, and countries like Nigeria abandoned our coal pits, but unfortunately many countries in Europe were actually using coal as source of energy until it became stronger. And some of us are in front of that advocacy to say that you cannot make us abandon our crude oil rigs and our gas, because you think you are transitioning. But when we are offering gas as a transition energy, than any other possibilities you are talking about at this point in time. So I think the European countries would consciously, engage us, especially if you have a country like Portugal leading that charge in that front.
Okay, well said. Let's return to Lisbon, where we have Ambassador Kefas. Your Excellency, there are many areas here, because you were talking about 10 MOUs, oil and gas, politics, security, research and development. One would also be tempted to think towards the volume of balance of trade between Nigeria and Portugal. Yes, we export gas to Portugal, but of course we import industrial machinery, drones, spare parts, as a matter of fact, manufactured goods, which of course we don't have. So you can see that it is slope-sided in terms of balance of trade. Now, how will these MOUs address that with respect to ensuring that at least Nigeria could get to a point where we can also export other items rather than just gas? Is there, or are there areas of a special concentration by Nigeria that could, of course, yield fruits in the nearest future?
Thank you so much. Yes, there are areas that we can collaborate with apart from oil and gas, because we have spoken much about gas, and of course that the other area that we could work and then collaborate, of course, is the area of agriculture. So, and we also have areas like footwear and leather bags. Quite recently, I was in the second biggest city in Portugal, that is Porto. Porto is like Lagos, where you have most of the companies manufacturing virtually everything. And then I was able to visit the national lab that determines the quality of production of footwear and leather products. So this institute, I was able to link them with our National Institute of Leather and Footwear in Kaduna. So they had already held their meetings. So the Portuguese were shocked that Nigeria produces 2 million of shoes per week. So that the two sides had already agreed to work together. So Portugal was ready to build capacity for Nigerian manufacturers of shoes and leatherware. So these two, our own team were supposed to be here in June, but because of the state visit, so it has been shifted to this month. So they also agreed that they are going to assist Nigeria marketing of our food and leather products, because they have the market. And Portugal has comparative advantage in the area of food and leather works, because it is the third largest producer of footwear and leather products in Europe. So it consumes only 10%, so the remaining 90% is for export. So I believe that we can work together with Portugal to achieve this. Another area that we need to also work with Portugal is the area of renewable energy. So we are having issues of energy supply, that Portugal, apart from gas, Portugal has efficient supply of energy like solar, that the city of Porto that uses 80 to 90% of energy from solar, not from any other resources. So we can collaborate and do that. So the mayor had indicated interest to invite some state governors to visit Portugal, so to look at all areas. So not only food, and then of course we were able to supply Portugal with other products, that is agricultural products, and then also other products that we have, because Portugal has a bigger market of some of these products. So we need to work together to achieve this.
All right, thank you, Your Excellency Ambassador Kefas. Madam Garbashu, I know the issue of gas piping now is very, very fundamental in this strategic partnership. Now that the Portuguese leader indicated, a desire to have the gas piped through the maritime route, they have always been looking out for the safest and easiest route, so they have decided to pass it through the maritime. When will this be concretized, or has it already?
No, as a matter of fact, the gas pipeline is a huge Nigerian dream. Yes. That's what I will call it, because Nigeria doesn't have the money to do it. And I'm not even sure Portugal themselves, they have the money to do it. What this understanding on their part means is that they, being an influential member of the European Union, the Portuguese pride themselves with experience in international relations, and they leverage that in dealings with countries within the EU itself. And another thing, of course, is that they on their own said they have made choices in their international relations, and one of which is that they want to be Africa's ladder or bridge to the European Union. So my sense is that they want to partner Nigeria in the search for money for investors to do this.
Okay.
The maritime route is attractive because Nigeria has embarked on the West Africa gas pipeline a long time ago. And you know,
your understanding, is that what it is?
It is running up to, I believe, Cote d'Ivoire, you know, Togo, Benin, Ghana, I guess up to Cote d'Ivoire, and it's just to stretch it and take it from Senegal up and connect to, you know, Mauritania, you know, Algeria and Morocco, so that is to say, in effect, that what we need is people who are in countries or institutions that have the money to come in and work with us. Then another thing, of course, is the fact that, you know, given our population and the coming into place of the continental free trade area, which is the world's largest free trade area in the world, then everyone should seek to have an entry into the African market, you know, and Nigeria would benefit immensely if it were to place itself as a hub for manufacture of goods that would be sold to African countries. So it's, Ambassador used, it's a win-win for everyone, for all of us. Beyond gas, as you have said, yes.
I like it, you know, when it said for Nigeria to be the manufacturing hub of Africa. And of course, that cannot happen without deployment of science, technology, and innovation. We're going to get into that, you know, as we, you know, make progress in this conversation. For now, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, the conversation continues. You're watching Good Morning Nigeria on NTA Network Service. Stay with us.
Nigerians, elections are here again. Let us shun violence. Let us play the game according to the rules. Do not be a thug. Say no to violence. Let's rise and defeat violence, crime, and sabotage against the peace of our nation. Nigeria is the only country we have. We must do everything to keep it united. We must avoid any act that promotes hate and disintegration. Say no to separatist movement, terrorism, fake news, hate speech, religious bigotry, and any act that tends to divide us as a nation. Watch out for strange gatherings and suspicious movements. Restrict access to sensitive documents and data, the disclosure of which may damage national security. Educate your staff and family, particularly on measures to safeguard information and report security breaches. Apply relevant legal security guidelines to protect yourself and your neighbors. Due to misinformation and wrong choices, some idle persons resort to vices in their greed to get rich quick. They resort to kidnapping, killings for rituals, and other heinous crimes. Avoid wrong use of the social media. Before you broadcast that false message, think twice. Ask whether it will promote peace or violence. For safety at home, still be security conscious. Educate your household in safety tips. Report all suspicious movements and persons to the security agencies nearest to you. Be a good citizen. Be patriotic. To pass security information, please call 0813-222-2105, 0915-339-1309, 0908-837-3514, or send a mail to dssPR@dss.gov.ng. This message is from the Department of State Services, DSS.
Finally, the hero of Nigeria's democracy has arrived. He shall usher us into a new phase of development, peace, and prosperity. He is the father of the new Nigeria, His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR. Welcome to another season of giving Nigerians hope yet again. We are sure of a great future for both ourselves and generations yet on board. We look forward to your leading us as a nation into our manifest destiny. Though the challenges against us as a people are many, we know that your leadership shall set us on the right path to our greatness. A new dawn beckons on us all, and having you as our president is a precursor to this. Thank you for believing in Nigeria. This message is from the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA.
Our pastors, our imams, in every church, in every mosque, please realize that in the course of praying for peaceful and transparent elections, we all have duties beyond prayers. If we want a stable society before, during, and after the elections, what should you be saying to those that worship with you all Sundays and all Fridays? You are saddled with the responsibility of bringing up good generations. It is therefore your duty to both man and God to ensure peace all the time, no matter about elections alone. People talk to people and people listen. Talk to your followers. Make them listen to ensure peaceful 2023 elections. This message from the National Orientation Agency.
Motlalo, Nigeria are the 9th champions in this competition.
The 12th edition of the Africa Women's Cup of Nations is here with 12 teams including reigning champions and 9-time winners Super Falcons of Nigeria, all in contention from July 2 to 23 in Rabat, Morocco. You can catch all the actions live on the NTA network service and NTA Sports 24, channel 270 on Star Times, 434 on StarSat and 731 on Free TV. Come, join us to promote another championship run by the Super Falcons. For your advert placement, please call Hawa on 0803 312 1022. Africa Women's Cup of Nations, Rabat 2022. Game on.
Right, welcome back. Good to have you with us still, and we're having a conversation on the outcome of Mr. President's visit to Portugal. And earlier on I had asked Madam Garba Shehu a question on the piping of the gas through the maritime route as suggested by the Portuguese leader. Mr. Akishiju, I'd just like for you to give us an insight into what the modalities of this might be and how we can also get the buy-in, since this is a very huge and gigantic project.
Yeah, as I noted earlier, I think the difference is to have a major European country lead this initiative. So once you have that, all other European countries, would likely buy in, and even extend to other non-European countries. But principally, I don't see it as a government-to-government venture. I see it more as a trigger for investors to see prospects. Since there is an opening now, there's a new channel of interaction between countries that were supposed to clamp down on the use of gas because of so-called carbon emission, now encouraging the exploitation of gas, and that it's now we have an European country willing, to facilitate, one, providing that idea, leading that idea, and then willing to facilitate the piping, across the Atlantic bed. Now that for me is a major incentive for investors who had been latent, who had taken the back seat on deliberating and considering investing in gas. So this would, in the next, if the momentum continues, I believe that in the next 6 months you have investors, a consortium of investors coming together to start looking at the visibility of this, and in the next 1-2 years, I see a project like this taking off. So for me, it's exciting because that's a major segment of our industry that is going to come alive. More than about 206 trillion standard cubic of feet of gas reserve That's a whole. It's bigger than even our crude oil reserve. You know, either in terms of quantity and in terms of value. So it means that we will still have huge source of revenue.
Okay, well, away from gas, which is a natural resource, and of course in modern times we'll talk about knowledge-based economy and no longer natural endowment-based economy. And having said that, I'd like to return to Ambassador Kefas. Ambassador, I am thinking towards the mechanics of implementation of all these MOUs, and I am specifically talking about technology transfer. Are we thinking in that direction? Because I saw research and development as part of the MOU signed, and of course when Malam Gabashehu was talking about the need for Nigeria to become a manufacturing hub in Africa, that will certainly not happen unless we deploy science, technology, and the innovation. To what extent has any of the MOUs, tailored its interest, towards technology transfer in the areas where Portugal has a comparative advantage?
Thank you so much. Like I said, the 8 MOUs were all signed, and in terms of technology transfer, let's talk about the area of sports development, that where the minister went and inspected the sports city, which we all know, and this could also be set up in Nigeria. It was part of what was discussed, that the possibility of the Portuguese to also set up the football academy in Nigeria, so that we're able to learn from them. Also, of course, the training of our football coaches that will be brought into Portugal for training. So other area we are also looking at is the area of technology, like you said, ICT in particular. So that already there has been that type of technology between Portugal and Nigeria. Like the managing director of Galaxy Bank told me that most of the ICT knowledge were from Portugal. And also they also mentioned that the best payment system that we have in Nigeria that was acquired from Portugal. So he told me that about 80% of ICT that we can talk about now, all from Portugal. So I believe that this area is the fast-moving sector that can boom our economy. So we should take advantage of that. Then, of course, the implementation of these agreements is dependent on all the stakeholders. So as an ambassador here, of course, with my team, we will do everything possible to follow up, to make sure that these agreements are fully implemented. I also expect the relevant ministries, departments, and agencies in Nigeria, of course, including the private sector, to work. Let us have a synergy working towards implementing these agreements. So I don't want why we only sign the agreement and then go back and sit down. So it doesn't make sense. So we need to really come together to make sure that we support the political leaders. The two presidents have already set the ball rolling. It is now there for us to make sure that we fully implement this agreement for the benefit of our citizens. So that's what I want to make this statement.
When I say still stay with you, I know this is one relationship, as we said earlier on, that has been neglected for so long. But what exactly is our trade condition at the moment? What is the volume of trade between Nigeria and Portugal?
Well, the volume of trade now is in favor of Nigeria because Portugal imports more from Nigeria. So we have more money coming into our own ports than we give Portugal. And I believe that this would be double if these MOUs are fully implemented. And again, that there are also other very important MOUs or agreements that are still pending, so which is also very critical in our bilateral relationship, like the agreement on avoidance of global taxation, also the investment promotion and protection agreement. So these agreements are very key that for businessmen to really interact and then conduct their activities, because there are these instruments that make it possible for the settlement of disputes. So, and we need to also work on this. These two agreements, and including the digital economy, could not be signed because that it involves a lot of ministries. So, but they are already scheduled to meet by next month. And we are also expecting that if it is convened and signed, that will also be another leap in our own bilateral relationship. So we cannot just only do other agreements without an instrument that will also regulate this relationship. So I call on the relevant NDAs to work toward the signing of these important agreements.
Okay, thank you. Back to the studio now, and we'll still have Gabashehu with us. Ambassador has raised a number of key issues, right? But I want you to look at this from the point of view of real technology transfer deal between a nation and another. Portugal is known for shipbuilding. They have a good shipping business. They are into building. Will Portugal, for instance, accept to establish a ship construction firm in Nigeria so that Nigerians can also learn how to produce? We need some practical realities. Things when you say you are doing technology transfer, it is physical. Right. And that said, and other areas of partnership, because if the partnership does not impact on Nigeria's economy, manufacturing sector, which you raised earlier on, then of course we are like a continue our usual trading, deals with Portugal. We buy gas, then we buy machinery from them, we buy drones from them, we buy key international products from them, while they buy just gas and perhaps commodities like agricultural produce and what have you. So what will you be advising those key stakeholders in Nigeria who went there, who are business consultants, who also travel to Portugal to do in terms of engaging their Portuguese counterparts?
Well, to begin with, the president has done his own bit. He has opened the door, for government to government and people to people communication, and it is for everyone to come forward and to take full advantage of this situation. In the course of this visit, I'm sure that the president spoke at no less than 3 places where he emphasized the need to hurry up, expedite the signing of bilateral air agreement, which has been long pending, has been long delayed. And I'm sure that from there, whoever is responsible in Nigeria will have taken lesson, would have taken the message that we need to expedite this. Now, what would they be bringing, and that will impact positively on our economy? We have reported that, for instance, Nigeria's choice as one of the 5 countries to produce vaccines on the African continent had the strong backing of Portugal. And they are very strong pharmaceutical economy. It's very clear that they have said it, they are going to key into it. So the thing then is that President Buhari will not now come to do the nitty-gritty for everyone. Authorities in that sector, businessmen, and thank God the Chamber of Commerce was present and they signed an agreement between their own counterpart. The NIPC, Nigeria Investment Promotion Council, also was there. They signed agreement with their counterpart. Look, what the President Souza was saying, I am not talking about getting companies or Portuguese company trickling into Nigeria in 30s and 100s. No, we are talking about they're pouring into Nigeria in thousands. So we need to create that enabling environment so that they come in their thousands, and when they come, they obviously will not be operating in the air. They need Nigerian hands, and thank God we have enormous. The biggest asset we have is the people asset we have, and a lot of it educated and skillful. So they'll be part of the process, and it will just take a little push. I mean, all of those who have achieved national development didn't just do miracles. With discipline and participation and association with those who know, we'll cross the line and we'll get there.
All right, Niyi, we would not like a situation where the thousands of investors that will be coming from Portugal will come into Nigeria and then stample upon, triple upon the Nigerians and the industries or the manufacturing, firms that we have here. We've had quite a number of these agreements, some of them gathering, dust and all that we're not even servicing. What can we do now, to be able to activate, these agreements, make them, not just active, but also, like you say, see concrete and, evidence of the fruit of these visits?
Yeah, a major facilitation of what we're talking about is the Joint Commission. A joint commission between that marks a bilateral relationship. It suggests an ongoing, relationship. It suggests review from time to time of activities and the substance of that relationship. And I think there is a suggestion of a joint commission during this visit. So for me, it's appropriate that the Joint Commission is established so that you have full-time personnel reviewing, these MOUs, and not just reviewing, also engaging the necessary MDAs who are not going to be the exact investors, but they are going to be the facilitators. They are going to be the ones that would create the enabling environment for these companies, to come into Nigeria. So it's important to have this on the front burner through a joint commission. And since it's in the pipeline, as it were, I think the only thing is to keep reminding, the system that this should be done so that we can use that to activate and, of course, sustain interest in the MOUs.
Okay, Ambassador Kefas, you've just listened to Mr. Kinsiji. Now, talking about monitoring mechanism, a joint commission, and you are the eye of Nigeria in Portugal, and the success of this visit, of course, the credit will go to you when we succeed in this. Is there any monitoring mechanism or a joint commission, and what role are you going to play to ensure that all the agreements reached with Portugal will be implemented going forward?
Thank you once more. Like I earlier said that during my briefing, I mentioned about the establishment of a joint commission that is very key. So it's an umbrella that will bring all, that will really regulate the operations of all these MOUs that were signed. My Minister of Foreign Affairs, His Excellency Geoffrey Onyema, during this visit, he had a bilateral meeting with his Portuguese counterpart, where he also reiterated Mr. President's statement that there's need to establish a joint commission. So that has still been pending. So, and that, of course, I discussed this issue with the relevant authorities here when they came, that, of course, what they mentioned was that, importantly, that let there be MOU on political consultations that will now lead to the discussion on joint commission. So, and which my minister had signed the MOU during the visit, as you can see, that the political consultations between the two foreign ministries was signed during the state visit. So we are now expecting that very soon that the two ministers are going to meet. And of course, that will now bring about the discussion for the establishment of joint commission. I agree with Hakim Shizu that joint commission is very key. So we are working on that and trying to push. But I'm sure that my minister had raised that issue, like I mentioned, and that, of course, his counterpart also agree with him. So I hope that very soon we are going to do that. Yeah. And then
Ambassador Kefas, I'm afraid, Ambassador Kefas, I will have to stop you at that point. We're almost running out of time. Thank you. And let me also, well, I'm afraid we don't have much time. You want to just quickly say something?
Yeah, well, just two things to reassure the viewers and Nigerians that those problems of MOUs, agreements being signed and abandoned is behind us now. As we speak today, the Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation has a performance evaluation unit. They're following up on these things. And by the directive of the President, as we speak, after each of visits like this one, the Office of the Chief of Staff, Professor Ibrahim Gambari, has a mechanism now. They will set up a monitoring committee, a follow-up committee, and they will just be directing, okay, following these agreements, you do this, you do that. So that's where we are today.
All right, Madam Garba Shehu, thank you for that clarification. Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity, we thank you. Always a pleasure to have you join us. And good morning, Nigeria. And of course, Niyi Akinshiyu, Financial and Investment Analyst. Thank you. Always a pleasure too. Let me also appreciate the ambassador to Nigeria's ambassador in Portugal, Ambassador Alex Kefas, who joined us via Zoom from Lisbon. Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for joining us, and do have a pleasant day. All right, let's take a look at sports, and don't forget Nigeria Super Falcons will be playing today at 9 p.m.
Nigerian-born Israel Adesanya outpointed Jared Cannonier over 5 rounds to retain his middleweight title at the UFC 276 in Las Vegas. Adesanya, 32, used his superior movement and control of distance to outstrike Cannonier and secure a unanimous decision victory, 49-46, 49-46, and 50-45.
And still, the undisputed Adesanya.
Meanwhile, the Confederation of African Football (CAF) have confirmed the postponement of the Africa Cup of Nations finals scheduled for Cote d'Ivoire from June 2023 to January 2024. African football's governing body, through President Dr. Patrice Motsepe, announced on Sunday that the 34th edition, which was initially scheduled for June 23rd to July 23rd, 2023, would not be played as planned due to weather conditions in the West African country. And in tennis, six-time Wimbledon champion Novak Djokovic reached his 13th quarter-final on Sunday as Roger Federer revealed his desire to play at the All England club one more time. Top seed Djokovic, seeking to move level with Pete Sampras as a seven-time champion, defeated Dutch wildcard Tim Van 6-2, 4-6, 6-1, 6-2.
Tim van Rijthoven. But for Novak Djokovic.
Well, we have come to the end of today's edition of Good Morning Nigeria. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again tomorrow. We'll bring you a fresh edition of the Good Morning Show. My name is Kirian Omar.
I'm Claire Adelabu Abdulrazak. Always remember to join us in our campaign against rape and rapists. From all of us here, have a good day. Thank you.